Okay, so here's what just happened that should be screaming across every headline. The Trump administration just issued a memo to the Department of Justice telling them to start prioritizing civil denaturalization.
Did the Supreme Court just end birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants? No.
States can start denying citizenship to babies or anyone whose parent isn't either a citizen.
Donald Trump just won one of the biggest wins that he's ever won. You ever notice that when Donald Trump tries to implement any of the policies that he ran on, some random judge from
automatically become American citizens from July 27, 2025.
The previous one being the third country deportations, when the Supreme Court said we can't have.
Wow, they did it. The Supreme Court has officially limited nationwide injunctions. This is a huge win for the president.
Do not move to USA in 2025. You understand? In fact, don't even think about it in 2026, because honestly, if the citizens are complaining, if the citizens are crying out, if the citizens are getting deported, if the citizens are getting the citizens, who are you? Who do you think you are? Honestly, just ask yourself that question, like, who are you? You understand? So if you have other choices, you can move to other choices. But the truth is, the most part why we always want to like go to this particular place called USA is because of the sweet benefit and everything that comes with it. You understand now? Like USA is one of the places that a lot of African countries, apart from African countries and other countries as well, are eager, are willing to just go to this country, because there's a lot of things that a lot of people feel like, okay, I can make out life from this place. This place I can get greener pastures. This place I can change my identity and so on and so forth, that can actually be beneficiary to me. But with the rate of deportation these days, with the rate of you becoming a citizen, and at the end of the day, you're no longer a citizen, with the rate of ups and downs, Lutanas, megas, blacks, and every other stuff, like, I will literally keep telling you to your face, like, do not move to USA this 2025. Anyways, I'll just allow you guys see this particular clip I'm about to play for you guys, so that you guys can see what some of the citizens are using their mouth to say. That you cannot make your decision, okay? For disclaimer, so that you not be like, why is she telling people now to move to USA? Like, make your decisions, okay? That doesn't mean that if you give me the ticket, I will not think about it if I'm going or I'm not going. But let's just watch these videos first.
Okay, so here's what just happened that should be screaming across every headline. The Trump administration just issued a memo to the Department of Justice telling them to start prioritizing civil denaturalization. And that means revoking citizenship from naturalized Americans, people who became citizens legally, if the government believes that they got that citizenship fraudulently or pose a security threat. And sure, the memo claims that this is only for the worst of the worst, like war criminals, terrorists, gang members, and has been done historically. And that sounds fair in theory. But here's the catch. Once a naturalized citizen is targeted for civil denaturalization, they don't get a public defender. It's not a criminal case. You're just stripped of your citizenship in a civil court with no automatic right to a lawyer. And this opens the door to some seriously dangerous territory, because now the executive branch, meaning Trump's DOJ, gets to decide who counts as a fraudulent citizen. And once you're denaturalized, guess what? You're deportable. So this raises huge constitutional concerns. Who decides what counts as fraud? What counts as a threat? Are certain communities, especially immigrants of color, going to be disproportionately targeted? And what happened to due process? And let's not forget that citizenship is supposed to be the final stop in the immigration journey. You don't just undo it like an Amazon return. So when you zoom out, this is part of a pattern. Trump's already signed executive orders targeting birthright citizenship, and now this. So we're watching the erosion of what citizenship means in real time. So if you're thinking, well, this doesn't affect me, you should ask yourself, if the government can take someone else's citizenship, what makes yours safe? So you should call your representatives, ask them where they stand, and if you're a naturalized citizen or you love someone who is, this isn't just politics, this is your life. Citizenship is supposed to be permanent.
Listen, I need all y'all to listen up. Starting July 27th, states can start denying citizenship to babies or anyone whose parent isn't either a citizen or a green card holder. So I've heard. Let's dive into it. So from what I am hearing, Trump's executive order to ban birthright citizenship just got the green light. Now, 3 things this executive order is trying to do. 1, redefine the 14th Amendment of who gets citizenship under birthrights. 2, it says babies born in the U.S. won't automatically be U.S. citizens if their parent does not hold a green card or have U.S. citizenship. So that means a baby can get sent to a country it's never been to, or you may be able to get sent to a country you've never been to if your parents does not have citizenship or a green card. Now, I'm not saying that soon as July 27th hit, they're going to go find everybody whose parent wasn't a U.S. citizen or have a green card and just kick y'all out. I'm not saying that. And this is still being fought in court because the 14th Amendment does clearly state if you are born in the U.S. or naturalized in the U.S., then you are a U.S. citizen. But I'm just letting you know from here on out, if your parents does not have a green card, you will not be considered a U.S. citizen.
Children born to undocumented immigrants or visitors in 28 Republican states will not automatically become American citizens from July 27, 2025. The Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision, has limited the ability of federal judges to temporarily pause President Trump's executive orders, including that of birthright citizenship. With the Supreme Court ruling, it means a federal judge would not be able to issue nationwide injunctions for any case that challenges President Trump's executive orders or policies. Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship did not take effect because 22 Democratic states got 3 nationwide injunctions while the cases are heard on their merits. An injunction issued by a court stops a person or entity to do or not to do a specific act. The ruling, which takes effect in 30 days, means the practice of allowing kids of undocumented immigrants or visitors to become automatic American citizens will end in 28 states that did not challenge the Trump executive order ending automatic birthright citizenship.
Okay, it's Wednesday, July 2nd, and I know that I am late to the game on birthright citizenship. I was traveling for a beautiful family wedding, so congrats, Jamie and Eddie, on your wedding. But now we're back to work, and this decision came down while I was literally in the air. I wanted to give you my thoughts on it. As I've said before in the Supreme Court rulings, the previous one being the 3rd country deportations, when the Supreme Court said we can't have these nationwide injunctions, so we're going to allow the deportations to proceed until the appeals process is carried out. Well, that's exactly what happened in the birthright citizenship decision. They did not rule on the substance of birthright citizenship. They ruled on whether or not the nationwide injunction, in other words, the court order, remember I said there's like 3 levels of court, right? District court, appellate court, Supreme Court. Whether a district court can issue these nationwide injunctions, not allowing action by the executive, at a nationwide level. And the Supreme Court, we already knew through these previous decisions, was hinting at it, and that's in fact what they did with the birthright citizenship decision. So let's take it back to the beginning. Back in January, when Trump took office, he said, hey, we're going to end birthright citizenship via executive order, essentially directing executive agencies not to issue passports to children born to parents where at least one of the 2 parents was not either a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen. In other words, you can be born in the U.S., but if one of your parents are not a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen at the time of your birth, then effective February 2025, you will no longer be considered a citizen at birth, right? And so then these lawsuits ensued. And courts held that that was unconstitutional, and they said, hey, at a national level, nationwide, we're going to rule this is unconstitutional and no administrative agency or executive agency can follow this. In other words, you have to continue to issue passports, essentially, right? And then the Supreme Court, it worked its way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court didn't say, hey, it's legal, or in other words, we agree that this group of people is not entitled to birthright citizenship, but they're saying, hey, these lower courts aren't allowed to pause this at a nationwide level. So now it is, but they did say, and Justice Kavanaugh wrote, that if you can certify like a class action lawsuit, then that would be the better appropriate way to challenge executive overreach. Now, we don't agree with this, right? Because what this means is that it gives a lot of authority to the executive, and Trump's can't put courts can't put a stop to it unless they file class action after class action after class action, and it works its way up to the Supreme Court. And getting class certification is difficult, but lawyers are already on it. They've already filed lawsuits looking to certify anyone born after February, whatever the date is of the executive order, 2025, or after, right? And naming these groups of people as a class and saying, hey, the executive order is unconstitutional and we are the named plaintiffs in the lawsuit. We want to be certified as a class. And so hopefully that is the workaround, that then, they certify the class action, the class, a district court certifies it and says, yes, it is unconstitutional. And now again, the government has to follow the district court's order, not because it's a nationwide injunction, but because it's a nationwide class group of people. And they're already on it. They've already filed this lawsuit. So that's good. Hopefully, if and when it does go to the Supreme Court, they agree with the lower courts, which we presume will deem the executive order unconstitutional. And we will have once and for all a Supreme Court decision on, whether or not parents' lawful status is a requirement for birthright citizenship, which many of us in the profession do not believe it is. The way that both the 14th Amendment was written and how previous decisions have been issued, the previous jurisprudence. So that's where we are. Of course, if your attorney general in the state that you are in has not filed to challenge the executive order, then as of July 27th, which is when this, order can take effect, then, children born after that date in those states might be effective if that class certification has not yet come through and a decision hasn't been issued, on that, in that litigation. So I hope this explains a little bit of what's going on. I think it's really important to understand that this was about nationwide injunctions. It wasn't necessarily about birthright citizenship. It was about whether or not the courts could rule, lower courts could rule at a national level about whether something was constitutional. Now, the Supreme Court taking away that right definitely gives the executive a lot of power. It helps Trump be king like he wants to be. But I will say, and take this with whatever grain of salt you will, it's gone both ways. And when Republicans were issuing and filing lawsuits with nationwide injunctions and Democrats were in power, they also were very frustrated at nationwide injunctions. So it does go both ways. It feels more severe now, and it is more severe because we haven't had an executive branch kind of this out of control ever. And in recent history, and that's why it feels, so extreme to curb these nationwide injunctions.
Wow, they did it. The Supreme Court has officially limited nationwide injunctions. This is a huge win for the president. Although this is from the birthright citizenship case, it's about much more than just birthright citizenship. This goes for all his executive orders. This is basically the ball game. I went to Yale Law School where I focus on constitutional law, so I'll explain it to you as simply as possible because you need to understand how this would all work. First, Daria, what's a nationwide injunction? It's basically an order from a federal judge stopping an action for the whole country, not just their district. And as a reminder, this is basically what's been holding the line against DJT and his team and their implementation of all their Project 2025 agenda and goals. And the court today said, hey, actually, you can't do that anymore. The decision was a 6-3 split, along the usual conservative and liberal line. Justice Amy Coney Barrett writing the opinion of the majority. This is the most important key line in the entire majority opinion. Court writes, no one disputes that the executive has a duty to follow the law, but the judiciary does not have unbridled authority to enforce this obligation. In fact, sometimes the law prohibits the judiciary from doing so. So effectively, what the court here is saying is no matter how wrong or unconstitutional or illegal the executive's policy is, federal district judge in New York, California, Seattle, wherever, cannot stop him, at least not on behalf of the entire country. So therefore, the individual that's affected either has to 1, find a lawyer and sue, 2, join a class action lawsuit, or 3, in some rare and special cases, the state will take it up for them. I'll stick with me because this is where the tricky part comes in. Because this could create a situation where a child that's born in New Jersey is a citizen, but just across the river in Pennsylvania, they're not. And to be clear, the birthright citizenship question wasn't decided in the decision today. This was more of a procedural ruling than a substantive one. And right now, the order has been halted for 30 days. Going forward, this can also be used by a Democratic president. It could apply to federal student loans, pew-pew control, whatever. Now, I've read a lot of Supreme Court opinions. I can honestly say Justice Sonia Sotomayor's dissent in this case is one of the most powerful dissents I've ever read. I'm going to read part of it for you here, because it's going to be studied and remembered for decades to come. She writes, children born in the United States and subject to its laws are United States citizens. That has been the legal rule since the founding. This court once attempted to repudiate it, holding in Dred Scott v. Sanford, the children of enslaved Black Americans were not citizens. To remedy that grievous error, Congress passed the 14th Amendment. There it has remained accepted and respected by Congress, by the executive, and by this court until today. No right is safe in the new legal regime that the court creates. Today, the threat is to birthright citizenship. Tomorrow, a different administration may try to seize arms from law-abiding citizens or prevent people of certain faiths from gathering to worship. The majority holds that absent cumbersome class action litigation, courts cannot completely enjoin even plainly unlawful policies unless doing so is necessary to afford the formal parties complete relief. That holding renders constitutional guarantees meaningful in name only for any individuals who are not parties to a lawsuit. Because I will not be complicit in so grave an attack on our system of law. I dissent.
Donald Trump just won one of the biggest wins that he's ever won. You ever notice that when Donald Trump tries to implement any of the policies that he ran on, some random judge from somewhere will just pop up out of nowhere and start interjecting with their ideas? Well, those days are over. The Supreme Court just ruled in favor for Donald Trump against all of these judges. So now Donald Trump can finally get more important policies passed in this country without any issue or blowback. One of them being birthright citizenship. A lot of people are very ignorant in this country. They don't even know why birthright citizenship was created. It was created to ensure equal rights to formerly enslaved people after the Civil War. Not for people to come to this country and use it as a finesse tool to become an American citizen. That is not why it was created. And it should have been gone a long time ago, if I'm being honest. Things are finally going to start getting done around this bitch. Even though Donald Trump has been doing a damn good job, considering that every time he tries to get any of his policies done, somebody over here pops up with how they feeling. Oh no, I have an idea, and that judge over there wants this, and that judge over there all of that's over. God bless America, man.
Like, these are just few clips I played for you. Like, few clips I played for you with what is happening. Like, few explanation, like few talk. You understand? Just imagine if I have played more. If I have played more. Anyways, I'm not here to discourage you and tell you that do not move. But before you go, make out your decision. Think about it. Weigh your options. Will it going to be profitable? Will it not be profitable? What am I going to achieve there at the end of the day? Just before you move, you understand? Because even here that I'm staying, Nigeria, like, it is not it is not funny. That's just the truth. There is no country that is funny. But honestly, with all of this complaint, megas, like, is a whole lot. Like, it is a whole lot. I can tell you for a fact if you've been following their news. Anyway, let me know in the comment section what you think. Do you think this 2025, 2026, 2027, come next year, come 2 years, come 3 years, you are going to be moving to the US? Let me know in the comment section. What are your options that you're actually weighing after watching these particular videos? What are your thoughts if you're watching and you reside in US? Do you think that we should still look forward to come get that greener pastures, to come get that settlement, to come get that anything from US? As at this point with what is happening, let us know as well in the comment section. A lot of people will be there to learn in the comment section. Anyways, if you have not subscribed, subscribe, like, comment, and share. And yes, with no further ado, I'll see you in my next one. Bye. I love you guys. Mwah. Peace out from Global Sonia. Bye.